Okay, colleagues, I think we're going to begin. Just making sure the live stream is working. We're good to go? Okay. So we're opening our meeting at 6:34. And I would look to a council colleague to read the land acknowledgement. Thank you, Councillor Strachan.
The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Obviously, colleagues, we're here tonight, first for a Committee of Adjustment and then a council planning meeting. So in regards to the Committee of Adjustment meeting, I'm looking for approval of minutes. These are the minutes of the April 15th, 2026 meeting as circulated. Are there any comments or questions on these minutes? Seeing none, I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sullivan, thank you. And I will call the question. All in favor? That carries. Next is disclosures of interest in regards to any real or perceived. I have a different language. Disclosures of interest, I think we know what they are. I don't have to explain. Perceived or real financial benefit or loss arising from tonight's proceedings. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. So we have, I believe, 3 public hearings this evening. So in the interest of time, we'll go straight to our first one. And that is in regards to the public hearing for A0426. This is an application about the property 1661 River Road. So the Committee of Adjustment will now hold a public hearing to consider application number A0426 on lands located at 1661 River Road, concession 1, part lot 16, geographic township of Oxford on Rideau. Now the municipality of North Grenville to reduce the setback from the normal high water mark from 30 meters to 16.2 meters for a proposed projection only, and therefore to reduce the setback from 30 meters to 18 meters for an addition to a legal non-complying dwelling. This hearing is obviously your opportunity to provide any feedback on this application, and the committee welcomes any questions or comments you may have. Certainly, we encourage you to do this at this meeting, as Planning Act rules suggest that the public's ability to voice objections later in the process may be very limited if written or oral comment is not submitted this evening. An appeal, of course, may be filed with the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant, a specified person, or a public body. We have Kai, our Secretary Treasurer, keeping a record summary of the meeting, and any persons who wish to receive notice of the committee's decision can reach out to our staff following this hearing, and you can provide contact information accordingly. So in regards to 1661 River Road, are there people in this room for that public meeting? Yes, okay, I believe we have the applicant here. Is anyone else? Not seeing anyone? Okay, so I'll pass it over to Mr. Mosher to give us the overview of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an application by Mr. Hansel. If we could go to the next slide. And it's seeking relief from section 6.25C, which in plain language is the geotechnical hazard limits that are established by a geotechnical report, as well as a setback reduction to the 30-meter setback from the normal high water mark. If we can go to the next slide, the subject property is located at 1661 River Road, which is located in a rural area of the municipality and is also a waterfront lot. I wanted to start this meeting just by saying that municipal staff is unable to recommend approval of this variance request, as the proposal fails 3 tests of the variance process. I'm going to walk through that in the next few slides, outline staff's position, context, and options. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the subject property, while being rural, is also this waterfront property. And you can see on this image that there's an area that's located as a provincially significant wetland. The proposal more than exceeds the setback from that wetland that's required by today's modern standards. There is floodplain. It's located at the very far northern edge of the property and doesn't really come into effect to this application. The thing that is of note is the erosion hazard, which is shown in this thick black line. So that erosion hazard is as mapped by our conservation partners, and it extends out quite a bit past this property. The existing dwelling, as mapped by the geotechnical hazard, is close to the slope. And so that's something that we're going to talk a little bit more about. If we can go to the next slide, please. So as seen here, this proposal shows the desired 2,013 square foot, two-story addition. The existing dwelling is noted where it says existing single-story wood frame dwelling. And that's to the east of the proposed 2,013 square foot, two-story slab-on-grade addition. The proposed addition would slightly be closer to the water than grandfathered. So the green dashed line is representing the grandfathered setback that's established by the existing dwelling. So you can see that there's a small area where it projects out past it. And the proposed addition would also slightly extend past the limit of the hazard land setback. The hazard land setback is outlined in the red line on this image. Next slide, please. This shows an elevation view, and the lines correspond to the same lines from the last image. So green dashed line being that grandfathered setback that's established. You can see that the proposed addition would go a little bit closer, and then the 16.5 meter setback from the limit of the hazard shown in red, and you can see that the proposed addition goes a little bit past that as well. Next slide, please. So again, as earlier stated, what's not in dispute is that the development does maintain a 30-meter setback from the wetland. What is outstanding or not met is that when we first began pre-consultation discussions with this applicant, we identified the need that we were generally supportive of the proposal, but there was need to be some geotechnical information that's submitted in support. And so we did receive something in 2023 and 2024. And that information identified that, yes, there's this 16.5 meter geotechnical slope hazard setback. So we waited for some time, and then the application came forward in 2026. And when we received it, we did have discussions with the applicant to say, you know, your existing geotechnical information, although we're not engineers, states that there's this hazard that should be maintained. Do you have anything else that would be updated? And so an additional geotechnical report was produced in 2026, April this year, and provides an updated opinion by a geotechnical engineer that the proposed encroachment would be okay, subject to recommended mitigation measures, and provided that there are no other encroachments. That information is with review at the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, although that review has not yet been concluded. Even if the geotechnical report of 2026, in the opinion of the engineer, establishes that it would be okay, municipal official plan states that where you have a geotechnical hazard, additions are permitted to structures close to that hazard, provided that they're no closer than the existing setbacks for that slope hazard, no further into the hazard, which is not able to be met here. Further, our zoning bylaw says that development should not be closer than limits established by a geotechnical assessment. In this case, a geotechnical assessment has been completed, established a limit of 16.5 meters, and that is not able to be respected by the proposal. Again, the geotechnical report from April says it's okay as long as you follow mitigation, but that is still not been peer reviewed by Rideau Valley. If we could go to the next slide, please. This application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act requirements, and as a result of that, we received the following comments: an email of no comment from Bylaw and Public Works, an external comment from the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville citing policy 441, which says that development should be set back as far as a lot permits. On this point, it's not uncommon where people do have structures that are located closer to water, that they construct an addition as long as it's no closer than existing. So that's a very normal practice that occurs within Ontario. Next slide, please. Minor variances are required to satisfy 4 tests under the Planning Act. And so in my opinion, as a planning professional, it could be said that the application's minor, so that test is able to be met. But for the reasons in the report and the reasons communicated tonight, this application is not consistent with the official plan or the zoning bylaw, being that it proposes the addition further towards the slope hazard and not in keeping with the geotechnical hazard setback. Therefore, I can't say that it's desirable and appropriate use of land. Next slide, please. So therefore, if making a decision tonight, staff would recommend that the Committee of Adjustment refuse this application. The committee also has the option to grant, should they so choose, and the committee has the option to defer the application, should they so choose. That concludes the report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. So I'll look to colleagues, and I see Councillor O'Sullivan and Deputy Mayor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Deputy Director Mosher. I just want to make sure I have everything correct. So the geotech report said that it is okay to do it where it is. RVCA is reviewing it but hasn't responded at this point. There were recommended mitigations that came with the geotech report. Have they been incorporated in the plan?
Through you, Madam Mayor, they would be recommendations carried out as part of construction. So no, that has not been carried out.
Not carried out, but it is part of the plan. If we did approve it, it would be part of the plan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so when I looked at this, there's an addition on the existing dwelling. Is that addition part to be removed? And then this new addition kind of butts to the existing dwelling on an angle. And it's slab on ground, so there's no basement under either? Is there a basement under the original?
Through you, Madam Mayor, my understanding of your description of the addition is correct. You'd have to pose the question about basement to the applicant himself.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed on the drawings, the septic seems to be in, like, beyond the hazard. So does the septic stay? Does it have to be moved? If it's okay to have the septic there. So the difference here, we're talking about a meter, 1.8 meters of difference. And is that right on the slope?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So just referring to the site plan, the proposed septic system is located quite a bit back from the slope hazard, not near to the slope hazard. It seems to maintain about a 6-meter setback from it.
Okay. Okay, so I guess those are my questions, and I'm tempted we need to, I'll let my colleagues ask their questions. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Deputy Director Mosher. It looks like there's a desire to attach the new structure to the existing structure, but the existing structure has been grandfathered in terms of the setback. Has there been any, and I can ask the applicant when he comes down to speak, but has there been any discussion about altering the location of that new building in order to conform with the new setback that's applicable to the new structure?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we did speak last week and talked about that as a potential option.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Deputy Director Mosher, just one follow-up question. How long has the request for peer review been with the RVCA?
I believe it was circulated to them in April once we received it.
Are they still within a normal timeline to get back to you, or have they blown past what you would have expected to hear back from them from
You, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of, so we circulated this geotechnical report to them, but I don't know when the application by the applicant was made for the regulatory permit to the CA. So I don't know.
Okay. This may be an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a reason why it came to us today when not waiting for the RVCA to provide a response? Are we under another timeline to get this application approved or a decision made on it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, you're under no obligation. Under the Planning Act, the requirement is that once an application is deemed complete, that a decision should be made within 60 days. And normally we do try to and achieve that. So I think the application was deemed complete in March, and we wanted to bring it before the committee.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions at this stage? Deputy Mayor?
That 60-day timeline to render a decision based on a complete application. Is there penalties for going beyond that? Is there any reason why we couldn't defer it to wait for the RVCA report?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if there's a willingness on the part of all parties to wait, there's certainly no, if everybody's in agreement, there'd be no penalty.
Okay. So does the applicant wish to speak at this time? I know there was a question, Deputy Mayor, did you have a question for the applicant? Because this is your opportunity to speak. If so, you have to approach the deputation desk. Thank you.
There was a number of open questions, I thought, so I guess.
If I might, I'll
Yes,
direct my
please.
question.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Hansel.
Hansel, I apologize. So my question is, like, in my mind, it makes perfect sense to put the building congruent with the existing building. But given the new regulations in terms of setback, did you consider adjusting that a little bit to conform? I know it's not as pretty as what you've got, but you know, if you wanted to go forward rather than refused, I think that might have been a concession you might have considered.
Oh, okay, I see. I haven't looked at specific, different designs to set it back more, but obviously that's a possibility. I'm not sure, we could increase the angle, but to have it still attached to the existing and, at an angle, I'm not sure where that would get us. So that would have to be looked at by the designer. There was a question about the existing basement. So the plan with that, as crazy as it sounds, is to fill in 2/3 of it and make it into a 2-car garage, and then keep 1/3 of it and maintain a basement, which would be the utility room for the new house, and the living space above it would be maintained and repurposed basically into mudroom storage and that sort of thing. So we're eliminating quite a bit of the basement, which I don't know if that's a positive thing or not, close to the shoreline, but.
Other questions, colleagues, at this stage?
Just one other comment. I guess the shoreline that's in front of that, as far as the erosion, in front of where the new house would go, is it's not remediated, but it's been redone, and that there's stone there. So there's basically, and I think that's part of the Collard report, is that there's really no erosion issue there anymore because of that.
Certainly, in the absence of the analysis from RVCA, there may be merit colleagues in a deferral. I understand it doesn't necessarily change the deliberations of planning staff, but it might certainly give us a little more information. My question for Mr. Hensel would be, if they are still recommending the buffer of approximately 16, or the setback, is it possible in your mind to achieve that, to at least adhere to what Collards is recommending at this stage? Because it's not evident to me if you're aligning precisely with what they've asked or not at this stage, or what they recommend, given some of the analysis that they undertook. And you'll have to turn your mic on.
Yes. So I'm not sure, maybe Phil would be better to answer that, but you're asking if back to the grandfathered setback based on the location of the existing house, I believe is what you're saying.
I believe that's the question. And Mr. Mosher, if I've not articulated it clearly. I understood from what you suggested that in the most recent analysis from Collards, they were still recommending a setback that was not achieved with this particular Committee of Adjustment application. Is that what I heard you say?
Hopefully to clarify, the most recent geotechnical
Yes.
report received said that the proposed projections into the 16.5 meter setback were okay from a geotechnical engineering perspective, subject to some recommended mitigation measures. But then if that was granted, then no other projections into that setback should be granted.
Okay. So I guess to the applicant, like given that most recent analysis, would that be motivation to do what you can to align at least with the most recent Collards analysis?
But
It
aren't we
wouldn't-
saying that they're okay with it? Isn't that the,
Maybe, Mr. Mosher, you're best to answer.
Unfortunately, I'm not a geotechnical engineer, so I'm
Right.
going based on my
Yes.
layman's understanding of that report. I do understand it to say, in their engineering opinion, they're okay with this proposal that's been presented, as long as you keep some mitigation measures. That's my understanding in very basic terms.
And have the mitigation measures been identified? I guess, because obviously I would expect, Mr. Mosher, you would want clarity on what those mitigation measures would be if in fact this body were to take very seriously the Collards analysis at this stage.
There are mitigation measures proposed within the latest letter. Just give me one moment.
but again, I think as what was previously discussed, that's basically, during construction, that there's mitigation measures taken into consideration. So it's just, I don't think there's anything that needs to be, I don't know, officially.
If I may, if the committee ultimately approves this, it should be subject to site plan control.
Right.
So although staff aren't in a position to recommend it, if it was approved, it
Right.
would require site plan control. That would require that any slope stability requirements are recognized within that document, which is then registered on title, so that Mr. Hansel knows that and future potential purchasers know that too.
Right. Right. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. So colleagues, at this stage, we have the option to defer, approve, or uphold the recommendation by our planning staff to reject or decline the application. So I see some more hands, so I'll go to Deputy Mayor, then Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Hansel. I'm looking at one of the drawings that Deputy Director Mosher pulled up with the heavy dotted line, which I think it was in red or whatever. But it seems to only affect, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Mosher. The red line seems to, the most prominent feature of the new construction is whatever juts out, like I imagine an entranceway. Seems the rest of the new construction, the bulk of the new home is outside of the area. I mean, is there?
Yes, it only affects the part in front, which
Yeah.
is a single level four-season room, and then a portion of what is the dining room, and above it is a office area. So it's not, the full dimension of the
Right.
main house.
So again, my question is, would you entertain, removing that structure in order to comply?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. All right. Well, that takes one of my options off the table.
I mean, to incorporate that same space, it would be a completely different, design.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to advance our dream. That's all.
Councillor O'Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we don't have a time at this point when we can expect the review from RVCA to come back. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I understand it would take about a month from this past week when I did have a chance to connect with the RBCA.
Okay.
So they, I was pushing for them to have it before this meeting. They just, I hate to say, I think they dragged their feet as far as saying that the application was complete. and that was just, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And they said normally it's up to 60 days, but they were hoping that would be within 2 or 3 weeks. So it's possible it's a week or two from now if I'm lucky.
Because I would be inclined to say if RVCA agrees with the geotech report that it's okay to proceed, then I would be inclined to do that, to agree with that. Otherwise, I think having to perhaps redesign or move, it's only 1.5 meters we're talking about, right? 1.2 meters?
Yes, and only on the parts that, again, jaunt out from the main structure.
So I would say, Councillor Sullivan, I understand you're thinking out loud, but really at this point, maybe a deferral without too much speculation on what would happen when it comes back is probably prudent at this stage. But I hear what you're saying in terms of that additional information potentially being useful to the committee. So I'll look to Councillor Strachan, and then maybe we can get closer to a recommendation or a motion. All
Thank
right.
you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I think given what Councillor Sullivan has just said, I think we're narrowing in on a solution of, well, a temporary solution, at least a deferral
Right.
until we hear back from RVCA. From everything that everybody has said so far, they're well within their timeline. So if we're
Right.
going to go through the painstaking measure of going out to them to get a peer review, then perhaps we should give them the time that meets with their timelines as well, so that we could hear back from them. So I'd be happy to second that if it's being moved by Councillor Sullivan.
Great. Excellent. Efficient. Thank you. So Councillor Sullivan is moving a deferral of this matter until such time as the RVCA analysis comes to staff or to the applicant. Councillor Strachan has seconded that. Are there any other comments or questions at this stage? Yes.
What does a deferral mean? That it would be
It would
reviewed
be
in the next meeting?
reconsidered. It would be reconsidered at such time. I'll defer to Mr. Mosher as we have the information that's outstanding. Mr. Mosher?
Through you, Madam Mayor, assuming that we get everything that we need from RVCA, we'd bring the matter back in June, and that'd be June 10.
Okay. There's no such thing as a conditional approval, like based on RVCA giving their green light?
We have a motion for deferral on the table. I will accept other comments from council colleagues and we'll go from there. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. My feeling was that it was a conditional approval of the application as long as RVCA was agreeable with the geotech report. So I guess in a sense, it's a conditional approval, but I don't know that how that exactly helps you to move forward until you actually know for sure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's just means that there's more chance, I guess, that as long as they give their green light, that everything's okay.
Well, I do think Mr. Mosher has introduced important caveats like site plan control and what have you that may need to be embedded in a further motion. But again, I'm at the discretion of council in terms of how motions are moved. We have a motion to defer. If you are looking to change your motion, Councillor Sullivan, I think that would have to be done in collaboration with the current seconder. So Councillor Strachan, I don't know what you're up for in terms of where we're at in terms of this particular motion.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, perhaps in principle, that would be a good idea. I'm not sure because I think Deputy Director Mosher has raised other concerns with this application. So perhaps the response from RVCA is not the only factor that needs to be considered. And I believe it would still need to come back before council to hear from the planning staff on that item. Is that, that's my assessment, sorry.
Mr.
If I'm-
Mosher.
Yes, so it's a good question, and through you, Madam Mayor. So even if the RVCA comes back and says, yes, we agree with the geotechnical report, my report would still say that it's not consistent with the official plan or zoning bylaw. But then the committee has, I think, all the information it
Right.
needs to make that decision at the future meeting.
So Councillor Sullivan, as mover, I had understood you were moving to defer. If you were looking for a different motion, then we'll have to call the question on this motion. Unless procedurally you feel that I can change the motion if you believe the chair misunderstood the intent of the motion. I look to our clerk. No, I would. Oh, I see. Ms. Janot, then.
I would say, I think the intent was for a conditional approval.
Okay.
So I would say that's on the floor.
All right. Is that what you're moving then, Councilor Sullivan? Is it conditional approval subject to RVCA?
Yes.
A positive
Given
recommendation?
in the background that this has been in discussion since 2023, I'd hate to see it drag on longer than necessary, but I want to make certain that RVCA has approved that we go forward.
So I'm going to look to see if Councilor Strachan is supportive of the conditional approval.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am not.
Okay, so I would need another seconder for a conditional approval, Deputy Mayor? No. Okay, so I don't have support, Councilor Sullivan, at this time for conditional approval because I don't have a seconder. So it's not live on the floor anymore. So I'll have to go back to whether or not you want to move to defer. Do you still wish to move to defer? Or should I look to another mover?
Sure, I'll move to defer, and then it comes back as soon as
Yes.
we can and address it so that we don't hold things up any longer than
Okay.
necessary.
Indeed. So I will recognize you, Deputy Mayor, but we are now back to a motion to defer unless you have a other information that would shift the motion. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
If I understand your permission to intervene at this point, I believe the motion's on the table and
Motion to
we-
defer. Motion
Yes,
to defer.
and we can
Yes.
discuss it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this satisfies you, but my question would be through you to Deputy Director Mosher. Could you, in light of the conversation and the thrust of where it's going, is there any value in the site plan control option that you mentioned?
Through you, Madam Mayor, if it's deferred, I'm happy to bring back all of the options that the committee would want to consider if they're going to make a positive recommendation for this application.
And that would include possibly site plan control.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on the motion to defer? Until I believe June, you're relatively optimistic, Mr. Mosher. There'll be more information in time for the June meeting? Yes. Okay. So the motion to defer until the June planning meeting is before us. And if there were no other speakers, I'm going to call the question. No other speakers, calling the vote, all in favor. All right, that carries. Okay, so thank you. And we'll see you again in June.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. All right, so now I believe I'm going to close this public meeting and move on to the next one. And yes, I am moving to the next one. I just have to find it. Yep, okay. So next, we have a public meeting for an application for 535 Swinley Crescent. The Committee of Adjustment will now hold a public hearing to consider application number A0526 on the lands located at 535 Swinley Crescent, Plan 15M44, Lot 35, former Township of Oxford and Rideau, now the Municipality of North Granville, from the following sections of the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 5012, Section 6.1.4C, to reduce the required exterior yard setback from 6 meters to 0.76 meters, to allow retroactive relief for construction of an accessory structure erected in an exterior side yard closer to the exterior side lot line than permitted. Obviously, this hearing is your opportunity to provide any feedback on this application. We encourage you to do so, as the Planning Rules Act suggests that the public's ability to voice objections later in the process may be limited if a written or oral comment is not submitted. An appeal may be filed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant, specified person, or a public body. Our Secretary Treasurer is with us this evening. Anyone wishing for further information can certainly approach Kai. Are there people here for this public meeting? All right, so just two of you? Okay. All right. So we'll pass this over to Ms. Wood, our planning technician, who will give an update. Thank you, Ms. Wood. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Peckford and members of the committee. Just a note, as you noticed from the original agenda, the resolutions have been updated with addresses and such on the revised agenda. So next slide, please. So this is a minor variance application, AO 526 for 535 Swinley Crescent, and the applicants are here tonight. The request is to reduce the required exterior side yard setback to permit retroactive approval of an accessory structure constructed closer to the exterior side lot line than permitted. Staff have reviewed the application and also recommend tonight that it be refused. Next slide, please. So in this slide is a subject property. It is a corner lot in Phase 6A of the Equinell subdivision. The lot is approximately 21.37 meters of frontage and 45.6 meters of depth, with a total area of 1,157.92 square meters. Next slide, please. So moving to the planning policy context, the subject property is designated residential as per Schedule B of the North Grenville Official Plan. Surrounding land uses are primarily rural residential to the west, being the Settlers Grant subdivision, with residential uses including the Equinell Golf Course in all other directions. Next slide, please. So the property is zoned residential, third density, exception zone R3-22 under the Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 5012. Because this is a corner lot, the exterior side yard must meet the front yard setback, which is 6 meters in the R3-22 zone. This exterior side yard setback may helps maintain consistent building placement, provides separation from the street, and preserves the visual character of the streetscape. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the overall site and landscaping plan, and we'll zoom in on the area in question in the next slide. So next slide, please. Okay, so here is the plan showing the existing shed located just 2 feet 6 inches or 0.76 meters from the exterior side lot line, and that's highlighted in blue. So the required setback of 6 meters is shown in yellow. And these are the plans that were submitted with the application. Next slide, please. Sorry, I forgot to mention that the existing shed is significantly closer to the lot line than the zoning standard permits. So although the accessory structure did not require a building permit, as it was under the 15 square meters under the building code, staff advised the applicant during the pre-consultation stage that the proposed location would not comply with the zoning bylaw. The structure was later found to have been constructed in that location during a subsequent building permit review. So regardless of permit requirements, all structures must comply with zoning setbacks. Next slide, please. So the application was circulated to persons and agencies prescribed under the Planning Act, and no public comments were received. Staff received the following internal and external comments. So bylaw services provided a no comment response indicating no concerns with the application. Public Works confirmed the building envelope is outside of the site triangle for that corner. And from an Ontario Building Code perspective, the building division confirmed that the accessory structure could be located adjacent to the dwelling with no impacts to intake exhaust vents based on information provided by the applicant's submission materials, which they'll present a little bit later. And the Rita Valley Conservation Authority provided a letter of no objection. Next slide, please. So minor variances must satisfy the 4 tests under the Planning Act. Staff's opinion, the tests were not met. First, the request is not minor. It represents an 87% reduction to the required setback. Second, it does not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposal undermines setback standards intended to maintain separation from that public street. Third, it does not meet the intent of the official plan. The location does not align with the planned pattern of orderly and compatible development for that subdivision. And fourth, it is not appropriate. It impacts the streetscape, and could set an undesired precedent. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, staff are not satisfied that the application met the 4 tests of the Planning Act and recommend that the application be refused. The recommendation is shown on the screen. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer questions from the committee. I also obviously note that the applicants are present and do wish to address the committee as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any questions for Ms. Wood at this stage of the game? No? All right, so then I'll invite the applicants to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity and time to speak tonight. My wife and I just moved to Kemptville in September, about 8 months ago. Enjoying it so far. We've been a little preoccupied with unpacking, et cetera, to really take advantage of the beautiful town, but looking forward to the opportunity to exploring some more and contributing to the community. I know we submitted a package including slides to Kai a number of weeks ago. I'd be happy to walk through that. In fact, I'd really like to be able to address some of the concerns.
It is part of our package and it is being called up. Thanks.
Perfect. So next slide, please. So indeed, we are requesting what I guess is not perceived as a minor variance. Apologies for that. And indeed, in full disclosure, the shed is there. We did make note of that when we made our application. To explain, we moved in September. We were anxious to get stuff out of the garage, so we engaged a landscaping designer who's been working with us since October. And I guess without any of us understanding the bylaws and the setbacks, we misunderstood, and the landscaping designer recommended that particular location for the shed. So we put it up and realized the mistake a week or two after. So that's what kind of led us here. Is we figured we'd try and do the right thing and get the right approvals in place before we break ground on the rest of the landscaping in approximately a month. We've continued to work with that landscaping designer, and we have all landscaping plan, including trees, extra trees, fencing outside the perimeter to enclose the shed, et cetera. Our justification for this variance request, first of all, as the pictures will show in the later slides, there are furnace vents and cold air vents on the exterior of the property directly adjacent to the shed. At the moment, there's a significant gap, but if we move the shed closer to the house, we believe there would be an impact to the airflow for HVAC. Also, because of the windows there, we believe it will block the view to some extent. So there's also an aesthetic component. You will also notice from the subsequent slides that there's a substantial downward slope in the property. This isn't flat ground we're talking about. We're talking about a 4-foot drop in the grade over the length of the house, making any other placement rather impractical. And also furthermore, as I mentioned, we are planning professional landscaping, breaking ground in approximately a month. And we believe that the shed will not be prominent and certainly not an eyesore when viewed outside the property, matching PVC fencing, other landscaping, including trees and shrubs. Next slide, please. This is a top-level view of the plan with the shed. I think that was previously displayed by Ms. Wood. You can see on the bottom right-hand side the existing shed location. As mentioned, 10 by 16. I'm sorry, I don't know the metric version of that. The proposed side yard setback would move that considerably closer to the property. You'll notice in the diagram in the orange against the house, we have the vents and we have a window there. Next slide, please. This is some pictures of the property from the front on the top left and from the rear corner on the bottom right. Starting with the top left, you can see the location of the shed at the moment, and you can see highlighted in red the location of vents and windows beside the house. The setback, adhering to the setback requirements would move that shed considerably further or closer to the property. Also on the bottom right, you see in orange the significant downslope. At the moment, the shed is on a flat ground before the slope starts. We are getting older. I do not relish the prospect of lifting, nor my wife, tires, lawnmowers, etc., up that slope. The reason our professional landscaping designer recommended that location is quite simply it is the most practical and aesthetic spot on that property. I understand it might be different if the property was flat. It isn't. Next slide, please. This is the grading plan that was given to us through EQ Homes. You can see highlighted some of the grading measurements that confirm the significant slope. And as indicated, in the green, kind of in the center, is where the current shed sits. Below, just past that, is where the property drops off. Next slide, please. This is the overall landscaping plan. It's indicated in quotes there because when this package was submitted back in March, we were on the 4th iteration. There have been some minor iterations since then. Most notably, EQ has planted the trees. So the trees are, the 6 trees around the perimeter of the property are in slightly different locations than indicated there, and the new plan reflects that. But materially, nothing has changed in the overall plan. There's still a pool on the back lot, and the shed and the path is unchanged from the original submission. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we are requesting, I guess, what is perceived as a fairly non-minor adjustment to the setback. But we believe, given the topology of the lot layout, the practicality and the aesthetics, we believe that that is justified, and we ask you respectfully to allow us to make this minor adjustment. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'll open it up to council colleagues for any questions. So I'm Councillor Sullivan and Deputy Mayor. Oh, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sullivan. All right. All right.
Thank you, Councillor O'Sullivan. And through you, Madam Mayor, I know when you asked earlier whether we had any questions for staff, we all indicated no, but now after hearing Mr. Boone, is that your last name? I do have a question for, I guess, Ms. Debbie Wood. It's noted in your report that at 87%, I think it was, a change in terms of the placement doesn't make it minor. How close would he have to move it, or how far away? Well, I guess my question is, what would make it a minor variance? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mosher.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. It's hard because it's not, minor is a very subjective term in the planning world. It's not a hard and fast number. So yes, 87%, that's the percent reduction. In our view, that's, not minor. By corollary, we've seen other examples where, there's been a centimeter here or a foot there or, a half a meter here or there. Those are the kinds of things that we've considered in the past, not to ascribe a percentage to it, but those are the types of things in the past we've considered minor. So it's not a number. Acknowledge that it is a subjective notion. Okay.
So in other words, if he was required to move the shed to within the bylaw, he wouldn't need the minor variance. But if it was slightly further away from the house to accommodate his comment about the vents, we can split hairs about whether it's minor or not. It might go through with a recommendation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if I might, I would ask the property owners if you'd be willing to move the shed closer to the house, maybe not as far as what's indicated in these drawings. Would you be amenable to that?
We would indeed. We'd be looking for a compromise. I guess it is subjective. We didn't know that this didn't comply with minor, but indeed, we would be willing to compromise.
Great. Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to perhaps the applicant or Ms. Director Mosher or Ms. Wood, I also thought that quantity and measurements, et cetera, were really not necessarily what made an application minor or major, et cetera. So the amount, the percentage wasn't really a big factor for me. personally, I think it's in the right location. So I have a lot that's the same way. It's not a walkout basement, but it's a steep slope down to the bottom. And as long as it doesn't affect sight lines in that for traffic around the corner, and you're going to have a PVC fence behind it, as well as, if I saw the landscaping plans, is there trees as well along and behind it? I think your wife wants to answer that question.
I thought I would.
Well, we'd need you at the microphone, please. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Leah Boone. So when we first moved in there and had to get that shed up so we can have room to put everything, as my husband previously said, we were very cognizant about the fact that there's other homes that are going to be facing the side of our yard. And those neighbors were in. And we actually talked to them and say, hey, we're thinking of putting this here. Do you have an issue with that? Not a problem. All those folks also were invited to this meeting. There's nobody here to counter that. And so we took great care with our designer to make sure that we have a PVC fence that comes around. And currently the plan then shows a beautiful metal fence. And then around there, there's 23 Carl Forster grasses that are going to be quite aesthetically pleasing. So the fence is 5 foot. So it covers a good chunk. So that's the metal fence. We have the option to mitigate if council wishes to extend the PVC fence, which is 6 foot. So again, that would be very little sticking out of that shed. When you're going around on the street, the sight lines, we're going into a cul-de-sac. It's not going to be an issue that you can't see what's coming around the corner because it's not right at the tip. And the trees that EQ has planted now, they're a little more evenly spaced. That's happened in the last 3 weeks. So basically, when those trees hit their canopies, like it's going to be overarching that shed. So it's not really going to be an eyesore. It is a beautiful summit shed. And there's going to be lots of other landscaping around there.
Okay. Thank you. So one last question.
Sorry,
Go
my
ahead.
husband said, and more trees.
Okay, you have me at trees. One last question then. If you do move the shed, if you have to move the shed closer to the house, then does that render the land that's behind it kind of just useless to you?
Mhm.
So it's, okay.
And also, just as a point, like, I mean, when we were looking at that lot, we did ask EQ, are there any setbacks we should know about? Is there anything, because we told them we are going to put in a pool and that was the purpose of that lot. We were told there wasn't a problem, that anything from our property line over. Now, pardon our ignorance, we lived 20, 25 years in Manotick. We bought a house, we renovated it. We've never done something like this. So even the designer was a little surprised afterwards when this was pointed out, actually by a neighbor who said to us, you know what? It's not bothering me, but another neighbor had a problem, just a different kind of thing. So there's some funny setbacks in North Grenville you should know about. And so that's when we sort of became aware that there was an issue. And we thought to do the right thing is to just ask for a variation, and minor, major. It's pretty major for us, I can tell you, because it's a lot of money spent on a house and landscaping, and we want to use the property and keep it aesthetic and keep it functional.
Thank you for your presentation and your comments.
Thank you.
So I'm going to recognize Councillor Strahan. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, and perhaps just more of a general comment. I appreciate the thoughtfulness that's gone into your planning and the consultations you've had. It's unfortunate that you were not given the best advice from two professionals, perhaps not the right professionals to give you that advice, because certainly setbacks are not something that North Grenville invented. We may have different ones from other areas, but yeah, so I appreciate that you put the thought into the aesthetic and that you've spoken with neighbors. I think the precedent is the challenge because you live in a community that is fairly dense. Overall, Equinel itself is a fairly dense area. And if everybody were to put a shed on their property that is, less than a meter from the property line, I think there would be problems. And I think neighbors would be challenged with that and we'd run into other issues. So I don't think it's specifically your property or your neighbors or what anybody thinks about that. I think it's the bigger picture that is also part of it. I would say, though, that I think a compromise is achievable and that if you were to go back to planning staff with a different kind of conversation, that perhaps it's just moving the shed to allow satisfy the planning needs and also allow you to be on that area without obstructing the vents and the windows and to be on the flat land and so on, that you could still have a shed that allows you to not have to drag tires up a big hill or anything like that. So I don't know if that amounts to a deferral or what would be required from right now to have that decision made or what the case may be. But whatever direction we need to go to allow that conversation for compromise, that's what I'm supportive of doing.
Okay, so at this stage, I think staff will be looking for direction in regards to this matter. So whether it's a compromise or any other avenue, I think we'll have to offer some precision at this table. However, I do recognize the applicant wishes to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you. May I simply ask, though, before we proceed
Yes.
further, if it was the recommendation to reject and allow us to seek a compromise, what would be considered acceptable? Is there a number, or is that something we can just talk about later?
So if I might, Mr. Mosher, maybe you can take a crack, or Ms. Wood, of course. I think at this stage it is at council's discretion ultimately to approve whatever the compromise might be. I don't know if planning staff are prepared to respond tonight or not, so feel free, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're not prepared to throw out a number tonight.
Right.
I mean, if the applicant and the committee want to do that
Right.
this evening,
Yeah.
that's a way, that's a possibility. But if staff is asked to kind of work with the applicant, we would take that offline and come
Right.
back at a future meeting.
Right. Certainly. Councillor Sullivan?
Madam Mayor, thank you. I don't know if we're able to have an approval of this and a clause that says without precedent, but I'm inclined to approve this request. I think given the location, given everything that has been presented this evening by the applicant and the fact that nobody is opposing it, I will caution the applicant to make sure that you get a permit and check before you dig a hole for a pool, make sure it's in the right place.
Already granted.
But I'm inclined, if any of my colleagues will second it, I'm inclined to approve that this be granted to you.
All right. So I hear two different things happening. Some council colleagues seeking compromise, Councillor Sullivan feeling enthusiastic about the applicant's plea to let the shed stay where it is. So I'm going to, I hear Councillor Sullivan saying she would like to move towards acceptance of the placement of the shed as it exists. Council colleagues, is there anyone willing to second that at this stage? Okay, so we'll let that one lie. Councillor Sullivan, for a moment. Is there another motion on the table? Councillor Strahan?
I would like to, I guess, reject the proposal from the planning staff to refuse this application with the intent of seeking a compromise. And should a compromise be achieved, then that's ultimately what we're trying to get. So I don't know if they have to come back to council regardless. And if they would, then it's with the intent of going towards compromise. Nice and wordy for the clerk, sorry.
Could it be a deferral with a direction to seek a compromise and that would come back to our June meeting? Is that
I would make that
Okay,
motion, and I think I could count on a seconder across the table
Okay.
to
Don't-
defer
yeah.
you pending consultation offline with planning staff about the placement of the shed.
okay. So the recommendation is a recommendation. It's not a motion until we move it. So let's park the recommendation. What I'm hearing is that there is now a motion to defer with direction to staff to work with the applicant on a compromise. Does that capture the spirit of what's being discussed here? Okay. So we have a mover, seconder. Any further comments or questions at this stage? Not seeing any. All right. So then we will call the vote. All in favor? All right. Okay. So we look forward to additional conversations between you and planning staff. And I'm fairly confident this matter could come back in June as well. Is that the case? Yes, go ahead.
June 10th?
Yes.
Perfect.
Does that work for you?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. We appreciate the benefit of your perspective. So thank you very much for taking the time. And I think we're optimistic that here in North Grenville, with the right amount of conversation at the right tables, we can get things done. So we're really optimistic that we can accommodate your needs. It's obvious you're very thoughtful, and I'm sure planning staff, having heard us cue them in the right direction, will look forward to lots of dialogue.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I thought I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Doreen is saying
I'm just
she is
wondering
like,
if we would have a recorded vote.
I can do that. The clerk will have to do that. I did call the vote, but I'm happy to have it taken again as a recorded vote. Sure.
Okay, so I haven't done a recorded vote in a while. I believe we are going in alphabetical order by last name.
If I might offer a point of procedure, I believe the vote starts with the person who asked for the recorded vote,
And then last name.
and then however you
Correct.
wish.
Okay, Counselor O'Sullivan, how do you vote? Thank you. Counselor Barkley, how do you vote?
Yay.
Counselor Peckford, how do you vote?
Yeah,
Or Mayor Peckford?
it's okay. I didn't even notice. Okay.
And Counselor Strachan.
Yay.
So
Okay.
the vote carries.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry, I missed that cue from you, Councilor Sullivan. Okay. All right. So we are going to move on to our last application before taking a short break. And I am moving us into our third public meeting. This is in regards to 206 Asa Street. The Committee of Adjustment will now hold a public hearing to consider application number A0626 on the lands located at 206 Asa Street, part of Joseph Adams Block, Plan 11, geographic town of Kemptville, now the municipality of North Grenville, to provide relief from section 6.3811A, 6.3811I of Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 5012, to permit driveways for semi-detached dwelling units to exceed the greater of 9 meters or 60% of the width of the lot, and to permit a driveway to be located closer than 1 meter to the side property line for residential use. Obviously, this hearing is your opportunity to provide feedback. We encourage you to do so, as planning rules suggest that your ability to voice objections later in the process may be limited if written or oral comments are not submitted. An appeal may be filed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant, specified person, or a public body. Our Secretary Treasurer is here to keep a record of this meeting. Are there people here for this public meeting? Okay, welcome. All right, so we'll pass it over to Ms. Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We just move to the next. So the request before the committee this evening is to grant relief from the 2 specific provisions of our driveway policy within the zoning bylaw that would allow to permit a driveway for a single detached dwelling with additional residential units to exceed the lesser of 9 meters or 60% of the width of a lot, as well as permit a driveway to be located closer than 1 meter to the side property line for residential use. At the start of the meeting, I would like to acknowledge that there has been a change to the proposed development after, and I'll get into that more into the meeting. But after consultation and comments received from Public Works and the public, The decision was made by the developer to change the plans for the dwelling to, instead of a semi-detached with 2 additional residential units and 4 parking spaces, it is now a single detached dwelling with 2 additional residential units and 3 parking spaces. So we'll have that information up on the screen shortly. If we go to the next slide. So the property is located within the town of Kemptville. It is located on Aces Street, just east of Joseph Street. Next slide, please. The property is designated as residential under official plan. That dark line that you see on the map is the setback, the 120-meter setback from the creek. I do want to note that the setback provisions was modified by the province a number of years ago to 30 meters, so they're outside of the regulatory area of the creek. Next slide, please. The property has a site-specific zone consideration, which is residential first density exception 36. And that was as a condition of an Ontario Municipal Board hearing at the time that the lot was severed, and it recognized a reduced frontage as well as a setback for a driveway to the property line of 0.9 meters. Next slide, please. So the infographic before council this evening is a revised site plan that was provided by the applicant just yesterday. So in coordination with our Public Works Department, we did hold a meeting with the developer to discuss the location of the water and wastewater infrastructure into the property. Our municipal standards require a setback of 0.5 meters from the curb stop to a driveway. So the original proposal had the curb stop fully within one of the parking spaces. So as part of that discussion, the developer provided a revised site plan and have made plans to modify the configuration of the dwelling, as mentioned earlier. Where the original proposal was to construct a semi-detached dwelling with an additional residential unit in each semi-detached, the developer is now proposing to construct a single detached dwelling with 2 additional residential units. So this reconfiguration internally only requires 3 parking spaces compared to the original 4 based on the original plan for the property. And it is noted that additional residential units are a permitted use under the zoning bylaw within the residential first density zone. The zoning bylaw requires that a driveway has to be either 9 meters or the lesser of 9 meters or 60% of the lot frontage. So in this case, the lesser of is the 60%, where the maximum permitted driveway under the zoning bylaw, the width of it would be 6.6 meters. Based on the proposed submission, the width for the 3 parking spaces would be 8.1 meters. So they're looking for a variance to increase the setback provision, or the width of the driveway from that 6.6 to the 8.1 meters. It is noted that with the new lot configuration, the setback to the property at 204 Aces Street is now 2.2 meters. This creates opportunity for snow storage on the property where concerns were raised previously about where snow could be stored. So now we do have additional space by going down to 3 parking spaces for the snow to be stored. To the eastern property line, the setback proposed is a 0.4 centimeter reduction, going from 0.9 centimeters to 0.5 centimeters, and that is to the property at 212 Aces Street. And as mentioned, the reduction of the 1 dwelling unit and the 1 parking space creates that opportunity to allow for a little more landscape in the front yard, as well as provide a space for snow storage and for garbage collection on their scheduled garbage days. And it also ensures that there is compliance with our municipal engineering standards as it relates to our water and our wastewater infrastructure. Next slide, please. As part of staff's review of the proposed minor variance, we did consider the policies of the provincial planning statement, the United Counties official plan, and the municipal official plan. We are satisfied that the proposed variances meets the intent of these policy documents and is by nature considered minor. We are also satisfied that, as defined, the proposed variance does not constitute residential intensification, as defined in the municipal official plan, as the uses that are proposed through the construction of the residence are permitted under the zoning bylaw. And to that end, the proposed dwelling itself meets all the requirements of the zone standards. So the only variance required is in regards to the driveway width and reducing the setback of the driveway from 0.9 meters to 0.5 meters.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. So, colleagues, any questions for Ms. Martin at this time? Nope, I see that. Does Councillor Sullivan? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Ms. Martin. On the sketch of the site plan, there's a section in blue. I may have missed it, but what is that section that's in blue shaded?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Sullivan, through your worship. That is the neighbor's driveway. Okay. And I think what we're highlighting in the fact is that the driveway at 204 Asa Street abuts right up to the property line of 206 Asa Street, which is the property that we're considering the variance for this evening. And I believe, and the applicant can confirm that based on their survey, actually the asphalt for that driveway may encroach a little bit onto the existing property that they own at 206 Asa Street. So there's an existing situation right next door where the driveway may already be within that 1 meter setback. Without looking at the history of the property, there, especially when we're looking at a lot of, houses within parts of Chemfield that have historically been here for 50, 60 years that predate zoning, it is likely that there are instances where there are properties that would have some grandfathering for having a legal non-compliance with that driveway setback.
Okay, thank you. And the where is 212 Asa in relation to this property?
Through your worship to Councillor Sullivan, if you're looking at the map, it would just be located kind of just on top of, just to the, it's technically to the east. But you have 204, 206, and 212 Asa Street is a larger parcel. So they're located just on the opposite side. They're not shown on the map, but they would just be the adjacent neighbor on.
Oh, okay, so there's no 208 or 2010
That is correct.
or 210. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll welcome Councillor Wilson, who's joined us, and I will recognize Councillor Strahan. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We don't have all the same diagrams in all the documents. So this one, as you're saying, is the updated one. I think the one that we're looking at has, or that I've been able to find, has 4 parking spots. So the width of the property is 10.8. Sorry, through Madam Mayor to Director of Planning, Ms. Martin. The width of the property is 10.8 meters. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Strahan, the width of the property is 11 meters.
11 meters.
That 10.8 is a hangover from the original site plan that was submitted with the proposal for the 4 parking
Yes.
spaces. But when it was created, it was 11 meters, 11.29 meters, sorry, to be more
11.29.
precise.
Okay, and I'm just, because I do have the 10.8 one here. So the 3 parking spots are each 2.7 meters wide, correct? So that'll be 2.7, okay. And that's 3 spots, correct?
That is correct. It
So
comes
8.1.
That is correct.
Okay, 8.1 meters of the 11 meters. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I feel like I'm obliged to mention, excuse me, to the latest letter of objection that back in 2024, I introduced a motion to have staff come back to council with changes to the zoning bylaws downtown in order to remove the obstacles for infill and intensification. And I assume that the objection based on the density and setbacks is based on previous understanding of what the zoning bylaws allowed. So I think I'm obliged to mention that those zoning bylaws for downtown have changed to allow for more infill and intensification. So I believe this development meets the intent of those changes. Thanks.
Any comments, Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Your Worship. To the Deputy Mayor's comment, yes, we have taken efforts and strides to look at opportunities where we can support infill and intensification. That's in light of, in part, a notice of motion from many years ago from the Deputy Mayor, but also one of the initiatives under our Housing Accelerator Fund was to enable ways in which we could provide opportunities for missing middle housing, which the proposed development achieves through the inclusion of additional residential units.
Okay. So the applicant is here, as I believe, as well as the individuals who objected to the application. So as per public meeting process, if the applicant wishes to speak, they're more than welcome to. And also we certainly can recognize the opponents or the neighbors who have considerable concerns. So I'm going to recognize the applicant first. Oh, yes, of course, Councilor Strahan, go ahead.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. And to Director Martin, just to echo what the Deputy Mayor has said, I do think infill housing is part of what we're looking to achieve to try and, find housing in the right places. When it comes to the parking situation, I think this will absolutely set a precedent. I think it'll be very hard not to accept other applications with similar situations for these kinds of reductions in the setbacks. But parking on site is definitely preferred over trying to find street parking. And I think all the neighbors would agree with that. If you were going to add additional vehicles into the neighborhood, keeping them on site is the prudent way forward. So from that perspective, I'm supportive. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome, sir. And if you could just state your name for the record, thanks.
Michael Barkos with Lockwood Brothers Construction.
Okay, all right. Would you like to offer comments based upon the conversation, or had you prepared something?
I can offer some comments, sure.
Sure.
that were made. First, I was hoping to go after the objection so I could.
Well, that
fully
is,
prepare. But that's fine, and I understand it. I wanted to say that I did meet with the Kuhars before submission, and actually was in their home, and we had a discussion very respectfully that we had opposing opinions. And I think I left with the understanding that it wouldn't matter what we built there. The opposition was to the size of the lot and intensification on its own. So with respect, we're moving ahead on that. We worked hard with planners on this. We had a different proposal originally that had parking spots in the rear, 2 in the front, 2 in the rear. And that met with several objections from planners about multiple minor variance requirements at that point. So then we switched the spots in the front with 4 so that we could have 4 units there. And then met kind of at the 11th hour, had an objection from Public Works. It was a surprise to us, but it shouldn't have been because it was a bylaw that was changed back in 2023. We just forgot about it during the planning process. This has been years in the making. And when that was brought forward, we changed and pivoted again to the 3 units. On that, I would like to say, and one, thank you for making the changes for intensification. It is a struggle. We're at odds often with neighbors. We understand that. But also we have people, myself included, I have 4 children that can't afford a house right now. So finding smaller, more affordable houses is near and dear to my heart, as well as my career. So on both sides of that. But in addition, I guess, I think there's still some room to go. So thinking back at that meeting we had with Public Works recently, to lose a unit within Kemptville, so a home for somebody, because of a curb stop that couldn't be in a driveway. I think there's a lot of ways to look at each of these bylaws that currently provide a no, and then say, is there an alternative? I know there's curb stops throughout the streets in Kemptville that are under manhole covers. There's probably some more work that we could do as a community to allow for intensification. But for this particular unit, we're happy to move forward with this minor variance and are seeking approval for the 3 units with the 3 parking areas. And I think each of the objections from the homeowners were addressed here, so I don't need to continue with that. Any other questions for me?
Any other questions? So, and again, just, I understand that you've pivoted and you're focused on the 3 units, but just to be clear, so that I understand, the intention for the 4th unit was prohibited on the basis of a bylaw through sort of, I guess, Public Works. And maybe Ms. Martin, you can elaborate just so as we go through official plans and other zoning bylaw reviews, we can better understand what was at odds in this case.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. In this situation, it is our engineering standards to not have curb stops located within driveways, within the asphalt portion of the driveway. Noting that this has happened in the past, Mr. Barkos is right, that standard came into effect around 2022, 2023. And it was something that our Public Works Department were very adamant that could not occur. So because of that, we were able to work with Mr. Barkhouse and Mr. Lockwood to come up with a proposal to modify what their plans were down to 3 units requiring 3 parking spaces, which still allows for that 0.5 meter setback to the curb stop. The curb stop's just a little less than 2 meters into the property, I believe, right now. So it's pre-existing, and that also was a challenge. It wasn't as if you had the opportunity to locate it kind of freshly. It's already there.
Okay, thank you. And when you say 2022, 2023 on our watch, obviously, so I guess we have to reflect on, right, some of the implications of some of these bylaws, which may have, inherent inherently lots of value, but nonetheless implications that perhaps are unforeseen. But that being said, I'll just defer to colleagues. Is there anything else for the applicant before we hear from any others wishing to speak? Seeing nothing, we will certainly hear from the neighbors, and you will have a chance to rebut if you wish or respond to any other comments. Thank you. Okay, welcome.
Good evening.
And if you could just state your name, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. My name is Neil Harrington. I live at 202 Asa Street.
And if you could just move the mic a little bit closer, that'll make it
Sure,
even
how's that?
better. Thank you.
I'm speaking regarding the requested minor variance for 206 Asa Street for the expanded driveway and the reduced setbacks on the property line. I'd like to take a minute here to provide some background on this property, because I think the history is important to understanding why I oppose this variance application and respectively wish that the committee will reject it. This lot was the subject of a lengthy and contentious planning process beginning in 2015. Mr. Mosher understands where we were with this. The owner applied for a severance to create the lot now known as 206 Asa Street. A number of nearby residents opposed this application, including myself, because we believe the proposed lot size at the time and the development represented poor planning and did not meet the established character of the neighborhood. Although council, through the Committee of Adjustment, through the mayor and the deputy mayor and others, rejected the proposal, and the matter was appealed to the OMB. I think that's fairly rare, that council opposes what the planning department says, and it goes all the way to the OMB, and in the end, the OMB overrides council and the residents and agrees with planning. It's unusual, just as a point. That's why this is very contentious. As part of the OMB process, the property was required to be rezoned to the special exception zone R136. The planning rationale presented at the hearing was based on a very specific development concept, a single detached dwelling on the severed lot with a shared driveway, rear parking for both properties, an arrangement and designed to maintain the compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. The OMB decision itself referenced that only one new dwelling should be built. The severance approval, zoning exceptions, and supporting site plan were all tied to that basic, specific concept. Importantly, nothing in the OMB materials suggested that that the intent of the approval was to introduce increased density, duplex intensification, or the departure from the low-density residential character of the neighborhood. At the time, the proposed design was accepted, although reluctantly, by many of the residents, because it generally maintained the established character of Asa Street. The house alignment, the shared driveway concept, rear parking, and single-family home were all viewed as more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Today's proposal is very different. The applicant is now proposing a duplex on this terribly small, undersized lot that is requesting relief from zoning provisions in order to accommodate expanded front yard parking and reduce setbacks. In my view, this isn't consistent with either the original planning rationale or the intent of the OMB decision that justified the severance in the first place. It is also important to recognize that until recently, duplexes were not generally permitted within the residential first density R1 zone under bylaw 5012. That change only occurred, apparently, in a recent housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw. The original approval framework for this lot was therefore developed in the context of low-density residential development and a site plan specifically tailored for this single detached dwelling. The requested variance now seeks to accommodate a form of development that creates new impacts on the neighborhood compatibility. One of my main concerns is the proposed front yard parking arrangement. There is effectively no front yard parking allowed today on Asa Street in the neighborhood, none. The established character of this area, particularly in Old Town Kempville, is defined by homes that are closer to the street, rear or side parking arrangements, mature landscaping, and limited paved front yards. Allowing a driveway width beyond the permitted standard, well, now I guess it's being changed, that they've reduced it down to 3, is still would alter the visual characteristics of the streetscape and reduce the balance between the landscaping and paving that currently exists throughout the neighborhood. Similarly, the requested reduction in the side yard setback reduces an important buffer between the properties. Those setbacks exist for good planning reasons, including drainage, separation between structures, and maintenance access. The official plan speaks of maintaining compatibility and protecting the character of established low-density neighborhoods. I do not believe this proposal achieves those objectives. It's against the official plan. More importantly, I believe that the special R136 zoning exceptions were created to permit a very specific development arrangement on a difficult and undersized lot. The proposal, therefore, before the committee today departs substantially from the original concept. In my respectful opinion, this application does not maintain the intent of the original approval, does not preserve neighborhood characteristics, and does not meet the intent of the zoning provisions from which relief is being requested. I would therefore ask the committee to reject the requested variances. I think if I could make a personal comment, I think a more appropriate solution would be for a development concept and a site plan that would put the 3 parking spots in the rear as original proposed back in 2015 and move the house adjacent and level with 204 to fit the streetscape. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, appreciate your time. Thank
Can I
you.
make one other comment?
Yes, quickly.
Councillor O'Sullivan commented about the blue line on the site plan. The blue line was part of the original site plan from 2015 that was going to be a shared driveway between the 2 properties. It's not, as pointed out, that it was on the wrong side of the property, that it was, what's the phrase? It was built as part of this whole development, and they moved the driveway and the parking on 204 to the rear in preparation for doing the same on 206. But that site plan was never developed and put forward. So the driveway is not being there forever. It's only been there for less than 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
No comments? Okay.
So we'll invite the applicant to address the concerns of the gentleman who just spoke so that we have the benefit of a little more insight. And then council colleagues will turn it back to the recommendation that's before us this evening in terms of how we want to proceed. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Your objections were very well presented and thoughtful, so thank you for that. Those are objections similar that we face as we try to build within an established community. The OMB made a ruling. It's over, so how we got to that, I don't think is relevant for today for this purpose. I understand as a neighbor, it may well be. The lot, I would like to point out, was for sale. And the neighbors didn't choose to buy it, to reserve it. That's the best way to control the property, is to own it. We don't own the laneway that's in blue. We have the property as shown on the drawing presented. In working with Maury and Associates through grading and water, oh my goodness, drainage, sorry, and snow storage, the parking in the back in this particular location was problematic, and assisted quite a bit by having the parking places in the front to ensure that we weren't going to adversely affect the neighboring properties with drainage. So I'm grading. Yeah, so unless there's a specific question, I think that's about all I could offer to that.
Thank you. So, council colleagues, anything for the applicant at this stage? Okay. I think we're good. Appreciate your willingness to come back down. Thank you. Is there any other member of the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. So, colleagues, we do have a recommendation before us. So, looking to you for how we want to proceed in regards to the proposal from our planning department to grant relief from parts of the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So I will see if anyone wishes to move a motion to some effect. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'd be willing to move the recommendation as a motion, as laid out in the staff report.
Indeed. All right. Thank you. Councillor Sullivan, you would second that? Okay. Any other comments at this stage of the game? Yes, I'll recognize Councillor Strachan and Deputy Mayor. Is it Councillor Sullivan? Okay, Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Director Martin, the wording, should it be the greater of 9 meters or 60% or the lesser?
It should be the lesser, through your worship,
Okay.
to Councillor
The
Strachan.
motion that we have in our package says greater, so I just wanted to clarify that we have the right wording. Thank you.
So you would just, sorry, your worship, you would need to change greater to lesser when it
Indeed.
comes to the description of width.
So to be clear, to provide relief from 6.3811A is 6.3811I to permit driveways for semi-detached dwelling units to exceed the lesser of 9 meters. Okay, so that's properly captured. Thank you, Councillor Strachan. Councillor O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to direct a question to Director Martin, please, regarding the decision that was made in 2015 by the OMB. How binding is that? Is there a timeline on that? Like, we have now changed a lot of things to increase housing, appropriate housing in the serviced area. So how does that affect our decision-making tonight?
Through your worship to Councillor Sullivan, that's a fantastic question. And it's actually a question that staff also had when the developers came in with a proposal. And we did seek a legal opinion in that regard. And the opinion that we received is that site plan and site plan control cannot further restrict beyond what zoning can. And it doesn't prevent a future application coming forward seeking some deviation from what was originally approved. So from a legal perspective, the applicant is in their right to be able to come forward and seek a further request for variance in regards to the parking, and they're not bound by the proposal as long as you're not, I mean, they're within the existing zoning parameters. So the site plan can't bind that further. So what they propose meets zoning except for the driveway width and setback.
Thank you, Director Martin. If I may, one last question. So the only setback that's they're seeking to vary is the front for the driveway. The sides and the rear are all appropriate. They're all within the requirements, correct?
Through your worship, the house proposed meets all the zone performance standards. The variance tonight is to increase the width to be 8.1 meters, where the requirement is 6.6 meters, and to allow for that reduced setback from 0.9 to 0.5 for the driveway to the shared property line with 212 Asa Street.
Okay, thank you. And there are several of these currently, this type of design with parking in the front around North Grenville, around the urban area right now. Have there been any issues with snow removal or anything like that so far to date?
Through your worship, that's kind of a difficult question to answer because it's very site specific and complaint driven as to where we may or may not see issues. What I can say from a parking perspective in discussion with bylaw services is that when we have the winter night parking ban, Asa Street is an area that tends to be problematic for people parking on street and not having space to park their vehicles. So certainly having the 3 spaces on site, 1 per each unit, as is required by zoning, accommodates them being on property and not on street.
If I may,
Yes.
one final comment, I'm
Indeed.
sorry. So I'm just thinking of the any negative impact to the residents that are the other homeowners that live close by. If the parking was moved to the rear, then there would be a chance of overnight snow removal going on in the backyard, perhaps closer to bedrooms, et cetera, which would become much more of a nuisance than it would be if it was in the front. Is that correct?
Through your worship to Councillor Sullivan, that's also a difficult thing to provide nuance on because you're asking about perception of nuisance and conflict.
Right.
But I mean, again, it can be accommodated through the variance to be on site. And in discussion with the developer and the challenges presented, it would have been quite narrow coming through there. So again, there's opportunity to create additional snow storage in the front yard. You're not having to push snow from a laneway along a longer stretch for property line.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor O'Sullivan for what was characterized as an excellent question about the significance of a previous OMB or land tribunal decision. Should this be referred back to the land tribunal? And to Councillor Strachan's correction, I take that as a friendly amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Apologies, I didn't come back to you, but I assumed it was more of a typographical error versus a policy leaning, but thank
I
you.
just like saying friendly amendment.
You really do. Okay, colleagues, so I think I've received all of the comments in regards to the motion now on the table, and I do want to thank the applicant as well as the neighbors for coming out and expressing themselves clearly. You know, we know that North Grenville is an increasingly attractive destination for so many different families. And we also know there are many families seeking to downsize or house adult children, among others. And sometimes those semi-detached units are really the best and most viable way to keep people in our community or to accommodate individuals who are seeking to live in North Grenville. I'm often very struck by the fact that when I ask people what's kept them here or why they've moved here, it is increasingly the housing diversity that is a very compelling feature. And certainly we've seen how much certainly semi-detached and other sort of houses with smaller footprints can make a real difference in terms of attainability and affordability. So really understand and accept that it can feel disruptive And our hope is in the long run, as we've seen in other places in Old Town Kemptville, that these units ultimately can be well integrated. And I know very much attention will be paid to how to create a very aesthetically pleasing and welcoming environment. So while it's never easy to make these decisions, I think our hope is at the end of the day to ensure choice in North Granville and attainable and available housing options, which, you know, since the pandemic have been really difficult in some cases to obtain. So, Council, I'm going to call the question on the recommendation with its friendliest of amendments. So all in favor, please. All right, that carries. Oh, okay, so we are going to take a quick break. Oh, no, we can adjourn this. Right, we're going to adjourn. And then we're going to take a quick break between meetings. I'll be transferring out of the chair. So we'll do that during the break. So an adjournment, colleagues, mover to seconder for 8:19. Which vote are we speaking of? Yes, we just called it. Yep. So Councillor Strachian and Councillor Wilson, and we are looking to adjourn Committee of Adjustment at 8:19 p.m. Okay, I'll call the question on that. All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, everybody, thank you for coming back, those of you who have. I'm going to call this council meeting to order at 8:35. And we've, at the Committee of Adjustment, we read the land acknowledgement, but perhaps we should do it again. Councillor O'Sullivan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The municipality of North Grenville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Grenville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous-informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Sullivan. I've got a few opening remarks that have been prepared. Just a quick reminder about accessibility. If you're unable to come down to the delegation table, please raise your hand and staff will bring you a microphone. There we go. Last weekend was another busy one in North Grenville. Residents enjoyed everything from the Kemptville Horticultural Society's annual plant sale to Mother's Day events, local markets, and live music at the Legion, as well as community gatherings across the municipality. I should take a moment to explain why I'm in the chair. The mayor's been called away, and she's entrusted to me to chair this regular council meeting or planning meeting, but was here and will be joining us momentarily. Yes, she's back. Great. She'll be joining us virtually. So this past weekend marked the opening day of the Kemptville Farmers Market for the 2026 season. It was wonderful to see so many residents. Unfortunately, I missed it. I had my mother in tow, it being Mother's Day, and we got as far as the B&H before she ran out of steam. The market continues, I remind everyone, every Sunday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's a change in hours from previous years. And it's at 200 Sanders Street, which is also known as the B&H parking lot. And I encourage everyone to stop by throughout the season and continue to support local. I also note that the municipality will be hosting a municipal election information session next week for residents interested in learning more about running for council. Local government works best when people stay engaged and involved in their community. So I encourage anyone contemplating running or just interested in the process. That session is here in the Municipal Center next Thursday, May 21st at 6 p.m. Applications are now open for the municipality's Mental Health Initiatives Fund. This is our second year for the program, and it's designed to support grassroots mental health projects and local organizations working to improve wellness and reduce stigma and strengthen supports across our community. Council has made mental health and community well-being an important priority over the last several years, and it's encouraging to see that the work continues to grow in meaningful ways. You can find information on how to apply on the website. Finally, looking ahead, this weekend's Kemptville Busker Fest will once again bring thousands of people to our downtown core for one of North Grenville's signature events. The festival kicks off this Friday evening with the first act at the Curling Club, followed by a full day of performances downtown on Prescott Street, featuring professional buskers, musicians, vendors, food trucks, family activities, and last but not least, local businesses. MP Michael Barrett, MPP Steve Clark and council will be on site Saturday to kick things off at the opening ceremony at 10 a.m. So you can find us on the main stage at the corner of Prescott and Clothier, right across from Rotary Park. Thank you to the new downtown Kemptville BIA, organizers, volunteers, sponsors, municipal staff especially, and performers for all the hard work. Thank you, and with that, we'll move on to tonight's agenda. So now we are at the adoption of agenda, and I'd look for a mover and a seconder for the agenda as submitted and circulated. Councillor Wilson moves and Councillor O'Sullivan seconds. And if there's no discussion or comments on it, I will, yes, Councillor O'Sullivan, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If I may add to the opening comments, if that's okay with you.
Go right ahead. Thank
I
you.
just wanted to take an opportunity to acknowledge that this is Nurses Week. And Monday, May the 12th, was International Nurses Day. It's Florence Nightingale's birthday. But Nurses Week is observed in Canada and in Ontario. And I'd like to acknowledge the hard work and the significant contributions of all of the nurses at KDH, any of the clinics that we have in town, and all of the public health nurses who contribute so much to the health and well-being of our community. So a shameless plug for nurses.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Sullivan. And I'd acknowledge your 50 years as a registered nurse and your advocacy for the Nurse Practitioner Center that, we recently opened. So I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of adoption of the agenda? Thank you very much. Next is declarations of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof. I'm canvassing council. I don't see anyone raising it. So off we go to the presentations. And it says here, Amy Martin, Director of Planning and Development. You're going to kick us off?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Perhaps just a quick intro. I believe members of council and certainly members of the public are quite familiar with Megan Reddy from Dillon Consulting, who will be taking us through an update as to where we're at with our official plan. I don't want to steal Megan's thunder in any way. But what I will preface is that tonight, no decision is being brought forward to adopt any proposed changes. This is an update on the changes that have occurred and some of those key policy items that were discussed during the public consultation back in March and up until we closed our public commenting period mid-April. So to that end, a future amendment to the official plan will be brought forward at a later date, which is still to be decided. We're still collaborating with the counties on their comments, but I just wanted to put that out there so that there wasn't any kind of pressure in that we're seeking a decision from council this evening. So we are looking forward to our discussion, and I will turn it over to Megan to walk us through the presentation.
I'm going to interrupt you because I have to officially open the public meeting with a lot of language. No?
No, sorry,
No, I'm
Deputy Mayor,
not.
this is not a public meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that part of it, of course.
yes,
There's no
this-
decision at the end of this presentation.
That is correct,
Yes.
but we do have a zoning amendment, public meeting following this. So you can save the blurb until that time.
Yeah, no, as you know, I want it set to music so I can sing it because it never changes and it's rather lengthy. Okay, I'll turn it over to Megan. Thank you very much for being here once again.
Thank you, Director Martin. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, councillors, staff, and guests. I'm pleased to be here tonight to provide an update on the NG 2051 official plan project. Tonight, I'll provide an update on the project timeline, including a review of the process to date, including our recent meetings, an overview of the OP policies and mapping that have been reviewed and updated since March, and a rundown of the next steps in our process as we finalize the official plan package. Next slide, please. So as a refresher, the pre-official plan update consultation was completed in 2024 and has served as the foundation of the OP update. We launched the technical official plan update in the summer of 2025 and have since then prepared several drafts of the OP to incorporate public, staff, and council feedback. We had our statutory public meeting back in March and are now rounding the corner on official plan adoption, although as Director Martin noted, there is no decision being made tonight and that timeline is still to be determined. So the official plan has had comprehensive engagement with opportunities for in-person, virtual, and hybrid consultation activities starting in 2021 with a project website, online survey, several community pop-ups, workshops, interviews, 2 community open houses in person, and 3 virtual community roundtables. In addition, we've also had meetings with the United Counties to ensure that we have their alignment and general direction for the OP as we began the process. We've had a public information center, several advisory committee meetings again to confirm alignment with their feedback received in 2024. We've had a council workshop, staff workshop, and our statutory and hybrid public meetings in March 4th and 10th, both here in this very room. So following the March statutory and hybrid public meetings, comments were accepted until April 19th for incorporation into this draft of the official plan. In addition, we also have some mandated updates to the official plan, including setting the planning horizon to 2051 and aligning with provincial direction as provided in the PPS 2024. Next slide, please. So our mission statement for this version of the official plan is that North Grenville is updating its OP to make sure it follows new provincial rules, reflects local plans and priorities, and prepares for the community's future where we live, work, and play. The local plans and priorities referenced in that mission statement include more affordable and mixed housing options, a stronger sense of community and quality of life, better connections for road, trails, and transit in new developments, support for local and small businesses, continued focus on attracting jobs and investment across the municipality as a whole, protecting our farms and local food system, recognizing the municipality's agricultural history, and providing for year-round recreation spaces. Some of the new provincial rules referenced in the mission statement include mandatory updates to our growth and projections, so required alignments with County and Ministry of Finance population allocations, housing diversification, including permitting additional residential units as of right on eligible lots, but only where zoning and servicing requirements can be met. Employment area protection, so that has resulted in a new land use designation within the official plan. Public service integration to allow schools and childcare facilities within mixed-use buildings where appropriate and feasible. Some regulatory streamlining, acknowledging changes to urban design policy, inclusion abilities within official plans. And finally, support for active transportation, promoting that active transportation options to support pedestrians, cyclists, and those who walk and roll. Now, getting into how the updated OP prepares for the community's future where we live, work, and play, one of those updates has been the addition of an intensification overlay on some areas that front on existing or planned transportation corridors. The intent of the overlay is to flag any future applications with these areas for additional review, ensuring that those applications are supportive of those transportation corridors and leverage those connections, and that any proposed new development or redevelopment is at a higher density than what currently exists, leveraging servicing connections in those areas and providing for economic sustainability. It is important to note, and we do want to highlight, that within the overlay, the underlying land use designations remain the permitted land use and will remain so unless the land undergoes an amendment to redesignate. This means that commercial areas will be encouraged to redevelop at a higher commercial density, residential areas will be encouraged to redevelop at a higher residential density, etc. The overlay does not de facto grant expanded land use permissions or pre-approved developments.
I'm going to stop you there because this probably has the most interest in the community. I know I don't want to delay going through other items, significant changes to the OP since the last time we had an update, but I wondered if council would like to weigh in on that particular change at this point or wait till the end of the presentation. Any appetite to? Okay, I'm going to let you go forward. Thank you.
Within this version of the official plan, we have retained the same policies as the 2018 official plan with regards to rural severances. It was something that was highlighted in past consultation, and so the project team completed an analysis of the total number of lots that had vacant property codes, finding approximately 800 total parcels. And through that analysis, we determined that in the rural area, there is a 12.8, so almost 13-year supply of existing vacant lots. With that, the province also directs and encourages growth in serviced areas, which would not be in the rural area. So we have retained those policies as is, but again, are open to council input and direction on that. We did just want to highlight the fact that there is a shortage of supply in the urban serviced area, and we think an overabundance outside of that. This version of the official plan has also incorporated feedback from the municipality's Indigenous Advisory Circle and the Algonquins of Ontario, including recognition of the municipality operating on Anishinaabeg land in the opening sentence of the official plan, and the inclusion of a new section titled Indigenous Communities, which intends to serve as a living registrar within the document that will change and update as the municipality deepens relationships with Indigenous communities, peoples, and organizations, and will serve as the repository of information on how Indigenous engagement and consultation should be had through the planning process. And in continuing to prepare North Grenville for the future, we've also been coordinating with the Mobility Master Plan project to ensure alignment. The municipality is undertaking the development of a new comprehensive master plan that sets out goals, timelines, level of service, and priorities for vehicular and active transportation. And members of the official plan and MMP teams have been collaboratively refining the policies and definitions in the OP to ensure both plans line up and follow provincial direction. And we do want to note that some of those transportation goals and policies from the 2018 official plan, they will not be reflected in the NG 2051 OP, but they will be moved to the Mobility Master Plan. So that's not to say that they are no longer exist, simply that they're now in what the province considers the more appropriate document. And I would like to take this moment to thank municipal staff on both projects for the time and effort to link both of these significant efforts. The MMP and the OP project are both multi-year comprehensive processes. So the level of effort and interest it takes for everyone to review each other's documents and make sure that we're being collaborative this early in the stage sets up both documents for success, but does take a significant amount of effort for those involved. And last but not least, we would like to acknowledge that we've received over 70 comments on the draft official plan following the March statutory public meeting until the April 19th cutoff date. The attention to detail, interest, and level of public participation in this process is ideal. It is what planning at a community level should be. And the official plan team has read each and every comment and incorporated the appropriate changes that are in alignment with provincial direction where we can into the OP. We received comments from individuals, businesses, landowners, community organizations, and more. And we would like to thank everyone for that interest. And we look forward to sharing the official plan with you and seeing how your comments have been reflected in this recent draft. So shifting to the official plan schedules, the objective of this update was to improve the understanding and readability of the mapping schedules. So quickly, Schedule A reflects updates to the rural, agricultural, and extractive industrial areas since our last update to Council. Schedule A1 reflects updated environmental and natural heritage constraints in alignment with county data. Schedule B shows changes to the urban serviced area boundary, expansion of the downtown commercial area, that new employment area designation is required by the province, and that intensification overlay area. Schedule B1 shows those changes to the urban service area boundary, that's on the southern side, and schedules B2 and B3, while they have no changes to designations, they have been brought into the new template. So to ensure completeness of the presentation, we have included them on the slides. We don't necessarily have anything to speak to on these, but please take the time to review them. And then if you do have any comments or questions, please make sure to let the project team know. So this is Schedule A for land use. A1, which is the natural heritage and constraints outside the Kentville urban service area. The B series of schedules show the Kentville urban service area at a closer level of detail, with Schedule B being land use, and B1 being those natural heritage and constraints within that boundary. Schedule B2 is wildfire hazard mapping, so showing where there is extreme or high levels of wildfire hazards. And Schedule B3 is our close-up for the Burritts Rapids land use schedule, highlighting that Section 8.3 for Burritts Rapids does have special policies and recognizes Burritts Rapids as a special policy area. And now to the path ahead. We are asking the county to review the official plan and seeking review and feedback from council on this version to date. We will then complete final refinements to the official plan text and schedules and then present the official plan for adoption and then approval. As Director Martin stated, at this time we do not have a formal timeline, but we will continue to keep council in the loop and will share updates with the public on the project website. And thank you for your time and attention, and we welcome any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Reddy. I'll go to council for questions, but I just wanted to say thank you for acknowledging the amount of work both you and, well, I'm acknowledging the amount of work that you've put into it, but thank you for acknowledging the staff's involvement as well. It is a big document. It's got a lot of impact in the community, and we want to get it right. And so I understand that because of the county's review of the OP hasn't been completed, that's the reason why this is strictly an information and feedback, and you're looking for further direction from council. A decision will happen later on at some point where we'll happily move into our new official plan. So Councillor Strachan, you've got a question or a comment.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor Chu is ready. Nice to see you again. Thank you very much for the update. It's good to know that there are things proceeding and what kind of consultations you've had, and it's been extensive. So thank you very much for that. A couple of questions. So the timeline, TBD, but there's an election coming up. So I'm assuming this will be completed prior to the election or perhaps prior to, I don't know if this would qualify under the lame duck period or not, if should we enter into that. But that would be August or October. Is that correct, that this would be completed during that time? Or to you, Director Martin?
Thank you for the question through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Strachan. So certainly staff is acutely aware of the circumstances that are happening this fall. And we are endeavoring to try and get this before council in the summer months. We are looking at setting up a meeting with the counties in the next week or two to have that sit down and to discuss their timelines. And I just want to preface with the counties because their official plan is 2016. They're due to update it, and their project timelines have been pushed out a bit. But we're still moving forward with our official plan, and they're still finalizing their growth management strategy. So to that end, we're looking at what policies can we move forward now and which policies do we have to park until such a time that their official plan is updated and we can bring forward an amendment to bring in our updated population projections and policies that would align more with their update as well. So I'm hopeful that in July, we could bring forward something for adoption, if not early August at the latest, just kind of understanding those timelines. But I do, and just acknowledging that I know there are a few areas, and part of the impetus of not bringing something forward this evening is that I know this is a big policy document, and I know there are a few items that council we're still hoping to weigh in on prior to bringing forward that formal amending document.
Thank you very much, Director Martin. If I may follow up with a couple other questions or comments. So regarding the vacant lots, so yes, there are more in the rural setting, as expected, I think, that are not developed, but could be. The 215 urban lots, not comparing it to the twice as many available on the rural side, is 215 a great number to have available when you look at our growth projections and so on, when you look at comparing to where we're going and having up to 215 that could be developed?
Through the chair to Councillor, the amount of lots that currently exist in the urban area, they will support over the next couple of years, but it is expected that you will continue to need more. And especially as Director Martin noted, with those updated projections from the county, once that is finalized, we do anticipate there to be a larger growth allocation that will then need to be accounted for as well. So while you are suited for the next few years, certainly planning being a forward-looking process means that even though you may have 5 years now, you'll want to make sure that we continue to have 5 years every year looking out for the indefinite future. So with that, we would encourage the municipality to continue to look at those opportunities to grow as well. I do believe that there was a local study completed relatively recently that identified potential areas in the settlement areas for that expansion, noting that over the next 15 to 20 years, you will need additional lands in order to support that housing development and growth.
Okay, so those lots are not bad for the near term, but not long-term planning for when it comes to development and needs to meet population growth. Correct. Thank you. 43 overlay. Yes, I've got lots of opinions on it. No, I don't think it's necessary. I think we could keep it green. I understand your points that you're making, and I understand why you've made them. I also know that having sat around this table, often the justification is it doesn't go against our official plan. And so if the overlay is there, it leads the opportunity for development. So I don't think it will be maintained as a green space for very long, my personal opinion. And so therefore, I don't think it is necessary. I think it is ripe for development. It is definitely an area that fits when you look at 43 and you look at all the services around and so on. But I've also been to lots of places where there's wonderful green spaces in the community, and it's nice to break up concrete and buildings sometimes with green space. So you were looking for a comment on that slide. I held off as long as I could, Deputy Mayor, but that is my take on it. And I do understand your justification for including it, but I personally don't think it's necessary. Thank you.
Before I go to any of the other councillors present, perhaps we can try to get Mayor Peckford online if we can hear her. I'd welcome any comments she has on the presentation or.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Oh.
You can't or you can? Am I very loud?
Yeah, it's not your fault. No, really. We can adjust.
That's good.
But you've got everyone's attention, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
Perhaps.
don't apologize. We're adjusting. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Has the volume been turned down now?
would you like to weigh in at this
Yes.
point or?
Yeah.
Okay, by all
Yeah.
means, go
I would
ahead.
appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for your share. I too tend to concur with Councillor Strachan's point on the overlay, particularly as it relates to Ferguson Forest, but perhaps beyond that. And I just wanted to emphasize that I believe staff would welcome direction on that particular proposal this evening. So colleagues, you may wish to move a motion to the effect of potentially asking staff to remove the proposed overlay. I share in the concerns I think we've heard from the community and from each other. So apart from that, I did want to ask a question about the rural development policies and the current decision, if you will, or recommendation to council to not beyond that severance, single severance. I understand from Ms. Martin has been in place for quite some time. I ask in part because I was part of the United Counties process. Rita Knights made a fairly passionate plea to have a 2 severance policy, and they ultimately successful. And my experience has been, as many of us have had conversations with rural donors that are looking to potentially serve larger parcels of land, potentially for family members, potentially for sale of the road. I'm just curious to know if there might be an appetite or a rationale to pull the amount of sentences allowed.
Oh, we've lost the mayor. But do we have enough of the thrust of her question? I don't know if she's directing that to you, Ms. Reddy, or to Director Martin. But do we have a sense of where she was going with her question? No? She wants a rationale about, she's concerned about the counties. Go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Martin.
I don't want to put words in her worship's mouth by any means, but I think what I was kind of getting from the sense of the conversation is the rationale for not changing the policies to allow looking at our rural severances that could open up opportunities for individuals to potentially get potentially another residential severance. And what I do want to highlight is that as part of the county's growth management study, they had some considerations around policies related to land severance when it comes to minimum lot sizes and the such. But to that end, I'm just kind of guessing as to where she was going, but I think she might be back.
I am back.
Yeah,
So
yeah, Madam Mayor, we lost you at one point.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Am I more audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. It was just to highlight an experience I had at the United Counties where a neighboring municipality sought to have a 2 severance limit versus a 1 severance limit. And I know to Ms. Martin's point, I think she gathered the spirit of my question. We do encounter property owners who are really looking for that severance opportunity for a lot of different reasons on larger lots. And I just was curious to know whether or not what is the standard in Eastern Ontario? Would there be any benefit to being more flexible with rural property owners?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. I can confirm that it is standard practice across Ontario. A majority of municipalities do have that 1 hectare lot size requirement for those new lots. So North Grenville's official plan is in standard with that. As well, the number of consents, 1 or 2, quite a few municipalities do have those term dates where it's a set number since that date. Most of them do adjust their policies based off of what their current land supply does look like. So that is why we did prepare that analysis, found that 12, almost 13-year supply, and then decided at this time to keep the policies the same. Certainly, it is something that the municipality can continue to explore. And if you do find that there is an increase of development in the rural areas and that 12-year land supply drops down to that 5 or 3-year mark even, certainly then they could be re-explored. It's predominantly for us to remain in line with the provincial direction at this time, which is to guide growth to those serviced areas and those settlement areas. And that was where the analysis led us to follow at this point.
I have a question about the analysis. Madam Mayor, did you have a follow-up question?
No, that's great. Thank you for indulging me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to indulge. This analysis, did it take into, perhaps this is to Ms. Martin or Ms. Reddy, either one can answer. Did the analysis take into account housing type and the fact that as of right, people have opportunity to build additional dwelling units? I mean, we have a number here, 215 urban lots not built upon and 461 rural lots. But, you know, if we're talking about density, we're also talking about building type, I would think. Is that a factor? Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking over at the deputy director who undertook actually the analysis for us and provided us with all this information. It is definitely a collaborative and group effort on this project. No, we didn't consider housing typology. We just looked at vacant land parcels that you could build a dwelling upon. That the housing typology wasn't really incumbent as to the land supply.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, did you have the ability to make a motion regarding the rural severances? Did you want to articulate something or
No, I look forward to further conversation. So at this point, I was just looking to have better articulated the rationale by staff at this time and to highlight my own experience around the county table. So I remain quite interested in this aspect, but for the purposes of this evening, I'm information gathering mode. So thank you.
Okay, so I take it there's no formal direction on your part that you're interested in on this item, correct?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Correct.
So continuing along this discussion of this change to the OP rural severances, would anyone else like to weigh in on this issue? No? Okay. I have no particular opinion on it. So you've heard the comments from the mayor and from Councillor Strachan, and I think we should move on to other changes. I know we are all anxious to talk about the intensification layer and to address the motion that the mayor has suggested, but I see other changes here. Is there anything else that any council member would like to weigh in on other than the intensification layer? No? Okay. Let's go back to the one I would say is much more contentious, and the suggestion that we direct staff, or including Ms. Reddy, to remove the intensification layer from that particular section of the Ferguson Forest lands. So that's a motion. Would anyone like to second it so that we can have a discussion on that motion? Councillor Wilson. Okay, great. So let's talk about it. I'll defer to my council colleagues. I've got a few things to say, but we've heard from Councillor Strachan, but did you want to elaborate on that? Oh, Councillor O'Sullivan. Did you have to wave your hand if you want the
Well, I
floor.
did, but I thought Councillor Strakoyan was going to make
We'll-
more comments first.
We'll come
and
back
then
to
I-
her. We'll go to you.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I think the intensification overlay on County Road 43 in that area, I think green space, important. And I think a nice gateway into the Ferguson Forest Recreation Area is very important. So I think I would personally like to see a compromise where we have some of both, maintain a good amount of green space with a nice gateway into the Ferguson Forest, as well as using some of that land perhaps we had a proposal for Shalom Small Homes to use some of that land for much needed affordable housing and tiny homes. And then perhaps other lands that would be developed in maybe with some commercial, but I think we need a mix along there with sort of using the infrastructure that's available because it's along the commercial highway, as well as maintaining. I think we can come to a balance.
Thank you. So I'm wondering, in this review, whether that desire to see that kind of development is pertinent to any language in the official plan. I guess my question in support of your suggestions are, is there an opportunity for council to direct staff to include some clear language on the development of that particular section? I'm sorry? Go ahead.
Sorry, through Deputy Mayor, we're not talking about development. We're talking about an intensification layer that could lead to something potentially down the road. We don't know what it is when it comes back to council. So I think unless there's a way to define that use and intensification layer is reserved for affordable housing only, or something like that, which I don't think there is. I haven't seen anything like that in this official plan, then we would be limited to intensification or no intensification. That's my understanding.
Okay, Director Martin or Deputy Director Mosher? I mean, what kind of direction can be included to the eventual, that speaks to the eventual development of that particular section, other than, as Councillor Strakojan is suggesting, it's only limited to that intensification layer being there or being removed?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. Currently what is proposed on the land use schedule is to include the front portion of the Ferguson Forest lands underneath that intensification layer. The underlying designation of that property is currently agriculture as per the official plan. And to that end, that land use designation is what we would look to from what is permitted from a development perspective. At this time, trying to develop policies for what could happen, we haven't really explored that as a municipality as to should there be a desire for development within that area, what could it look like? So to try and develop policies at this time as part of this process might be a little premature until you actually start to go down that discussion of what is feasible, what could happen. And at that time, that we go through that exercise, start to determine, what is it from a policy perspective that you would like to establish. Looking at another area of the municipality that we own, which is maybe a little more defined in how it's developed, is the campus. And we do have specific policies within the official plan for that. It's a little easier to address, but without kind of that vision or that overall guidance and just discussion of what could be, it is very difficult to provide more specific policies for that land. The overlay, it points to additional policies for consideration, but it doesn't establish that as of right land use. That's what the agricultural land use designation would do. Long-winded answer. I hope it addressed your question. But it would be, without that fulsome feasibility visioning exercise, it'd be very difficult to develop specific policies at this time for the Ferguson Forest Center without going through essentially what would be another planning exercise to determine what is that ultimate vision, goal, and objective for the lands.
Great. Just if, I recognize Councillor Strachan after I comment that your answers aren't long-winded, especially when you have a long-winded question coming at you. So from what I understand, yes, it would be great, in my opinion, to have some sort of policy discussion about the use of the Ferguson Forest Center lands. We have one for the campus. We have specific, the OP specifically addresses, the situation in Burritts Rapids, but it doesn't address the Ferguson Forest Center. So in terms of how that's developed, if it's developed, isn't pertinent to this particular iteration of the plan. Is that correct? Is that a fair understanding?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I can say that the interpretation is fair. What I might add is that when we look at, the campus is its own creature and how it's evolved over time, but we have done community visioning exercises as to what should the campus be used as. Burritts Rapids, the special policies for that was developed in coordination with the residents of Burritts Rapids. So again, it was a community-led initiative with the community and the municipality to develop that. You would want to do a similar exercise where it's a community a community-based exercise to understand, and I do recognize we have a variety of different viewpoints for those, what we could do with those lands, should we preserve it, should we develop it, and we had a few delegations to council that highlighted that nature of the variety of different opinions that are out there. But it would be, in my opinion, like a secondary process. I know we talk secondary plan. It could be a secondary plan, but it could be just an additional planning exercise where we specifically look at these lands, go through what is, that long-term vision for, if we're just looking at the corridor along County Road 43, and then come forward with a separate amendment. I don't think trying to do that as part of this process, how late in the game we are with the official plan, would be as successful, just given the high interest of this community in regards to the Ferguson Forest lands.
I'll come back to, you mentioned secondary plan, so I'll have a question about that. Councillor Strachan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just as a general comment, I think what I've said previously, yes, it's absolutely possible to develop it. I think I don't believe, in my opinion, I don't believe it is necessary. And unless we can come up with this visiting exercise and planning in the near term, I don't think it's something we consider at this point. Official plans are reviewed every 5-ish years. I don't see a huge need to pursue this overlay at this time. If within the next term of council, there's a wish to do so, there would be adequate time to address this approach that Director Martin has just laid out, so that there's enough time, adequate consultation with the entire community, or as much of the community as can be involved. The entire community, that's a wishful thinking, to weigh in on what that piece of land could be used for. I think trying to shoehorn that in at this stage doesn't make sense. And should we get to it, if there's a motion on the table to remove the overlay, I would happily move that. Thank you.
I believe the motion is on the table. Yeah.
I will move it then, please.
Well, you'll be seconding the mayor's motion. Oh, no? All right. Well, it seems like we're getting towards a consensus on this particular item. Yes. Sure. Just before you do that, and I appreciate it. Yeah, it was never my intention to suggest that we sort of develop a whole community engagement over the use or the development of that land. I understand and accept that removing the layer of intensification for that specific section of 43 is something we can do at this point, that it doesn't tie our hands going into the future. So, yes, Mr. Janot, please read what you've captured in terms of a motion from the mayor.
That council directs staff to remove the intensification overlay on County Road 43 from the official plan update.
I think with the mayor's agreement, friendly motion, before I go to you, Ms. Martin, might be to define that section, particular section of the layer of intensification. And I'll go to Ms. Martin. I'm sorry to preempt you. I'm sure you're going to speak to the same thing.
So yes, Deputy Mayor, I think you and I are both thinking the same thing. Just defining it as 43 would remove it from the entirety of County Road 43. And there's some very strategic areas where we'd want to keep it. Perhaps maybe the motion could be friendly amended to identify the Ferguson Forest land specific.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
And if I might, that was my intention. So if you can hear me, that was my intention.
So you would consider limiting that to the Ferguson Forest Center
Yes.
lands
Correct.
as a friendly amendment? My favorite expression this meeting. You accept that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, great. So
Yes.
Ms. Chanot, if you could read it again, and we'll call the vote, or we'll have, yeah. No, it's been moved and seconded. Right.
That council directs staff to remove the intensification overlay on the Ferguson Forest Center lands from the official plan update.
Great. That's a friendly amendment, and I'll call the question. All in favor? Oh,
In favor.
I'm sorry, did you want to?
Just ask a comment or make a comment, please. If the questions, the motion's on the table, right?
We just passed it, but yes.
Well, you didn't call the question yet.
I didn't call the question.
So is this the time for discussion?
It's on the table. It's time for discussion.
Pardon? That's why I put my hand up to ask if I
No,
could still
no,
make.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor O'Sullivan.
Well, no, I'll defer. I'll leave it.
Okay. Great. I'll call the question. All in favor? I'm the only one in favor? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Other issues or direction from council that we can entertain tonight? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Reddy. Thank you, Ms. Martin, Mr. Mosher, for entertaining our questions and my convoluted chairing of this meeting so far. We're going to now go into a public meeting. Okay? All right. So here's the prescribed language. Thank you once again, Ms. Reddy. Council will now hold a public meeting to consider an application for lands located at 2412, 2416 County Road 18 from Highway Commercial C3 to Residential First Density R1 and Local Commercial Exception 8 C2-8 as a condition of consent file B3/25. I must advise you that this meeting is your opportunity to voice any objections or concerns you may have with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If an appellant does not provide oral submissions at this public meeting or written submissions before council adopts the proposed amendment, the Ontario Lands Tribunal may refuse to consider their objections. Any persons who wish further notice of the council's decision concerning this matter should give their full name, address, and postal code to the planner following adjournment of this public meeting. Are there people here for this public meeting? Hello. Now I'll pass the meeting over to Director Amy Martin. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If we just move on to the next slide. Some background information on the property. It is subject to an application for consent, which was filed B0325. It has received provisional consent on the condition, one of the conditions being the zoning amendment before council this evening. The property is currently zoned as highway commercial. Its proposed zoning is to be residential first density and local commercial exception 8. The property was developed with a single detached dwelling around 1985, and based on MPAC records, the steel building that's located at the southwest of the property dates to about 1973. That's important because the existence of that steel structure predates zoning and has some legal non-compliant setbacks as it relates to the property line adjacent. The official plan designation, it is within our urban settlement area. It is designated residential, and there is a small portion on the along the river that is floodplain hazard. Next slide, please. This is the location of the property. It is when you're heading west out of town towards Oxford Mills. It's on the south side of County Road 18. Next slide, please. And the aerial photograph where you can see the development of the property with that steel building, kind of at the bottom of the photo, and then the existing residence. If we go to the next slide. In the official plan designation, it's showing as residential, and you can see the small portion that is floodplain that is not proposed to change. Next slide, please. And this is the survey that was submitted as part of the severance process, where you can see just the outline of the existing dwelling, kind of the top right-hand side, showing that it meets the setback requirements. It shows the lot frontages, which is important for the proposed local commercial lot. And as you can see, the steel-clad garage, where it exists, it has a location that is quite close to the property line. And as that property line is not proposed to change, the building is located where it is located, it does have legal non-complying status. So staff undertook a review of the various policy documents, including the provincial planning statement. I won't go into great detail. Each of the sections that were considered are provided here on the screen. We are satisfied that the zoning application meets the intent of the provincial planning statement. Next slide, please. And the same for the United Counties official plan. We looked at their growth policies as well as settlement area policies, and we are satisfied that the proposed application meets the intent of the United Counties official plan. Next slide, please. In regards to our own official plan, the various sections were reviewed as on the screen, and we are satisfied that the proposed zoning application meets the intent of our own official plan. And to note, the staff report goes into great detail in regards to this analysis. Next slide, please. In regards to the portion of the lot that's to be rezoned residential first density, it's noted that the reason for the severance was that the properties had merged on title over time. And as part of the recreation of that, at some point, the properties prior to our consolidation of our current zoning bylaw with the former township bylaws was zoned residential. And when the properties were amalgamated and the consolidated zoning bylaw was updated, a highway commercial zone was put on the entirety of the property. So the rezoning of the properties for the portion that's residential first density is acknowledging what is already there, which is a residence. Based on staff analysis, no additional provisions were required as the lot and the location of the house meet the zone performance standards for the residential first density zone. Next slide, please. So the zoning for the portion of the property that will retain the steel clad structure is proposed to be downzoned from the highway commercial zone to a more local commercial zone, which provides for more locally serving commercial uses. As part of the review, the frontage for the lot that will retain that commercial zoning is undersized by just under 10 meters. So the proposed zoning bylaw amendment includes that provision for that undersized lot frontage. Next slide, please. So the wording included within the draft bylaw for council this evening would amend our land use schedule B to identify the property having that split zoning, as I will show on the next slide, and as well as including that minimum frontage requirement of 20 meters for that highway, the local commercial lot. So as you can see, the split zoning on the property, trying to use the hash marking. So the bottom of the bottom part lot, that would be the local commercial, which again has that steel clad structure. And then at the top, that's the residential component that would be maintained. And as mentioned, the floodplain is not proposed to change. Next slide, please. So we did have comments that of no comment from Public Works, Bylaw Services, Building Services, and Emergency and Protective Services. They did review and they had nothing to provide from a comment perspective. We have a letter of no objection from Enbridge Gas. And I do note we did receive an email of opposition from a neighboring property owner who was concerned over their loss of privacy due to development on the subject lands. So if their property is located to the west, so it would be adjacent to the local commercial portion of the property. To that end, any commercial development is subject to site plan control where they're proposing a new structure, recognizing there's an existing structure there. But there are considerations around site plan control. They had concerns about what if a new residential dwelling would be proposed. They had concerns about reducing their privacy. And to that end, staff see a single residential dwelling and another single residential dwelling as being compatible uses. So the proposed zoning is appropriate for the properties. Next slide, please. So it is staff's recommendation that council enact a bylaw to rezone the lands from highway commercial to residential first density and local commercial exception 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. So the committee will now hear from the applicant, followed by members of the public who wish to speak either for or against the proposal. Following any comments from the public, the applicant will be offered an opportunity to respond to the questions raised. All persons wishing to address the proposal will ask their questions through myself, the chair. And please state your name, address, and postal code prior to addressing the committee. Committee members may also wish to ask questions through the chair to those making presentations. So is there anyone here, either the applicant or someone opposed to the application wanting to speak? Yes, Ms. Taylor.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. I think Amy did a great job and expressed what we were wanting to have happen was to have our residential home zoned residential back again and reducing the highway commercial zoning to neighborhood commercial was also appropriate. And she's done so much work. I just want to congratulate her on that. And that's all I have to say.
Question. Do you have any future development plans on either
Nothing as of yet.
But you want to preserve?
Yeah, we like the fact that we have some sort of commercial aspect. I mean, that's why when we bought the land, the house and the land, it was zoned residential and highway commercial. And that was very beneficial for us. And we just like to continue to move along that line. And we recognize that highway commercial on County Road 18, in between a bunch of residential homes, is not the appropriate commercial zoning for that neighborhood.
Okay, great. Yes, council colleagues, any comments or questions? The applicant?
Thank you.
No? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to speak for or against the application? Not seeing anybody. Then I will close the public meeting and table the resolution for the committee to consider. So I will read the recommendation that council pass and enact bylaw 58-26 to amend the zoning for the property municipally known as 2412, 2416, County Road 18 from highway commercial C3 to residential first density R1 and local commercial exception 8, C2-8, as a condition of provisional consent, file number B-03/25. That is the motion before you. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Strakian, thank you. Looking for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any discussion or questions related to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
In favor.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
I'm listening. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I should have asked you before I called the question. Now on to the consent agenda, I guess, according to the agenda. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda. I don't know why I put an R in there, as submitted. Thank you, Councillor Strakian. Looking for a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any discussion? I'll call for the question. Madam Mayor, I'll take that as a yes. And
Yes.
that's, yes, that council adopt bylaw 50, I should have read it, but I didn't turn the page. The council adopt bylaw 59-26 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 78-25, being a bylaw to appoint, oh, the heck. Sorry, how did that get on my script? Yes, okay. Well, that's the consent agenda. That's the only item on the consent agenda. Thank you very much. Keeping me straight here. On to deputations and proclamations. There's no deputations or proclamations. I'm not dragging this out to go to a certain period here. Minutes of previous meetings, there are none. My mouth doesn't work here. Reports, there are no reports. Correspondence, unfortunately, there was an item, but we didn't get it in time for the agenda to be published. We'll hear it. We'll get that correspondence next meeting, I understand. Motions and notice of motions. There are none. Notice of motions for consideration at a future meeting of council. There are no notices. Petitions and written communications from the public. There are no petitions or written communications from the public. Miscellaneous unfinished business. There's none of that either. I'm not dragging this out. I'm just following the agenda. Periods of questions from the media and the public. No? Okay. Confirmation bylaw. That I can't speak any longer. I'm sorry. That bylaw 63-26 be read first, second, and third time and passed. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for that. We're getting very close to the end. Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and seconded by Councillor Strachan. All in favor? Passed. The next motion is not debatable, but I need someone to move to adjourn the meeting at 9:36. Madam Mayor, would you like to move that? She's no longer with us. Okay, would someone else like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Strachan, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor O'Sullivan. All in favor? Meeting adjourned at 9:36. Thank you for your indulgence of my chairing of the meeting. Not quite as smooth as the mayor, but we got there.